He was in the reserves a couple of years, and then he was sent over to France in World War I and made it home. Yeah, back to Chicago for a little while. In 1934, he went to Reno, Nevada, and he was in the reserves there. He was in the reserves in between World War I and World War II. Called into World War II, I think, in 1942. South Pacific in World War II. Discharged in 1945. That was the end of the war, of course. His son also served in World War II, Bill Bailey Jr. His sister Thelma served in World War II. His brother Bertus, that they called Buster, served in World War II. Died either in North Africa or Italy, but is buried in Italy. He has a memorial tombstone out at the cemetery here. Probably for African Americans at that time, it was an opportunity to make a living. His dad was born in 1975, so he wouldn't have known the Civil War, but through his parents, he certainly would have known the old days of slavery. So I think it was like a way to better yourself, and they certainly couldn't go to college. There wasn't money for that sort of thing. And Thelma, his sister, I would just guess that she probably went there for a good job. Bertus and Bill and Thelma were all in World War II. But Bill, of course, was World War I and World War II.
The war may have been over for the Allies, but for Bill Bailey, the fight for freedom continued on the home front.
He had an interesting career in Reno, too. He was NAACP president while he was out there. He was very active in the civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s in Reno.
The fight for equality eventually put him out of business in Reno. But before the Civil Rights Act, Bill owned one of the few clubs that catered to customers regardless of their skin color. And his cousin, Pearl Bailey, star of stage and screen, introduced his clubs to acts like Louis Armstrong, Sammy Davis Jr., and B.B. King.
He had the Club Harlem. It was a casino for blacks. Of course, at that time, blacks could not go into the white casinos. He tells stories about black entertainers being invited to perform at the white casinos, but they couldn't stay there because they were black. So they'd stay in, it was Club Harlem and Harlem Boarding House or something. So they stayed in his boarding house because they couldn't stay at the hotels where they were performing. Yeah.
After performing at the big casinos downtown, they would go to the Harlem Club and play until dawn, where the standing room only crowd would spill outside and into the alley. But the nightlife wasn't all fun and games. As this article from 1946 states, Bailey was dealing craps when shots rang out. Despite ducking behind the table, he was shot twice. Eventually, the club closed after the Civil Rights Act passed, and Bailey returned to the family ranch to retire and raise cattle.
Now, his sister Alice was much more refined, was not very proud of her brother Bill because of his Reno connections, and they lived next door to each other. Have you heard that story? They lived in houses next door to each other. She wouldn't live in his house because she thought his house was bought with money from bad things from Reno. But Alice was loved by the upper class because she worked for him here in Edgemont, worked for the local pharmacist. What I got a lot of my information from, in 1992, he went to a Buffalo Soldiers reunion and did an interview, and somebody gave me these cassette tapes of those interviews. So I transcribed those tapes, and that's where I learned a lot. So that's their story. Bill lived a long time, lived till 99, so he was, 98, 97, 96 when he died. He did everything he wanted to do. His interest was the ranching and go to the sale barn and shake hands and, that was what he liked to do in retirement. That's what all ranchers do, As they get older, that's what you do whenever there's a sale. You go to the sale and shake hands and gossip and tell big stories.